Imagine you're standing on this incredibly crowded street in, say, Delhi, or maybe a bustling market in Phuket.
Oh, yeah, just absolute chaos.
Right. There is noise everywhere, traffic, just this endless, overwhelming movement of a massive city going about its day. And then, down a narrow alleyway, completely out of sight, there's a dog with a broken leg. Or a stray puppy shivering in the heat.
And you have to wonder who actually stops.
Exactly. Who stops? Because it's not the big international groups.
No, I mean, in a city of 20 million people, a single injured animal practically evaporates into the background. The massive global charities that we usually associate with animal rescue, they are miles above this reality.
Yeah.
They are sitting in boardrooms, negotiating international policy, mapping out 5-year strategic plans.
Which, obviously that is necessary work, but policy doesn't set a splint on a Tuesday night.
Right, exactly.
And as part of author KJ's team, we have been completely obsessed with this exact disconnect. We've actually spent the last few months doing a really deep dive into the foundational values embedded in the books by Lilo Publications.
Taking a close look at that underlying ethos.
Yeah, this deep sense of interconnectedness and protecting the vulnerable that you see in those books. So our current mission is figuring out how to pull those literary values off the page and forge them into a digital, actionable reality for the Pawrenting Company website.
Basically moving from the philosophical directly to the pavement. It requires finding the people who are already out there doing the heavy lifting and building a platform to support them.
Right. And when you look at who is actually doing that work in Southeast Asia and India, it is entirely driven by hyper-local grassroots NGOs.
Oh, absolutely. The small-scale operations.
We are talking about groups with almost non-existent budgets, operating in regions with stray populations in the millions. These are the literal boots on the ground. But the friction they face is just terrifying.
The logistics of running a grassroots rescue in a developing region are, they're staggering. You are not just fighting the sheer volume of animals, you are fighting the geography, the climate, the complete lack of municipal infrastructure.
Wow.
A group might have one retrofitted van to cover a massive metropolitan sector. And the physical toll on the volunteers is immense. They are dealing with severe trauma cases, rampant disease outbreaks, and just the constant crushing pressure of limited resources.
And it creates this brutal paradox, right? Because you look at the big international charities, and they have entire departments dedicated to donor relations.
Yeah.
Glossy marketing campaigns.
Oh, huge PR budgets.
Yeah. But the local NGO in Delhi, they do not have a PR department.
Yeah.
They are too busy physically pulling a dog out of a drainage dish to worry about their Instagram algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
So the people doing the most visceral, immediate work are somehow the least visible to global funding.
It's true. But, their lack of a massive administrative apparatus is actually their greatest operational asset.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, think about a top-down international organization. It is like a cargo plane trying to drop supplies. It's broad, but it's imprecise. A local NGO operates more like a neighborhood postman.
Oh, like a mom and pop shop versus a giant corporate chain.
Exactly. The giant international charity has the massive billboard on the highway, but the tiny local NGO knows exactly which alleyways the strays are hiding in. They know the terrain intimately. They know exactly which street corners have aggressive packs, which local butchers will leave out scraps, and critically, which community leaders need to be appeased to set up a vaccination tent.
Ah, right. So that granular knowledge allows them to stretch a single dollar way further than any international conglomerate could ever hope to.
Yeah.
They just don't have the luxury of administrative waste.
Right.
But because the landscape of need is so complex, their tactics have to be incredibly specialized. For this deep dive, we were looking at 4 different NGOs across Thailand, Vietnam, and India.
And what really stood out was how their hyper-local knowledge dictates completely different rescue strategies.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
You see this divergence most clearly when you look at population management. In areas with just overwhelming stray densities, the mathematical reality of rescue dictates that you cannot adopt your way out of the problem.
Because there are just too many.
Exactly. You have to focus on the origin point.
Which brings us to the Soy Dog Foundation in Thailand, specifically operating out of Phuket, and Red Paws Rescue in Delhi. Both of these organizations, they anchor their entire operational model on mass sterilization and vaccination drives.
Which is huge.
Yeah, and we know that spaying and neutering is the gold standard for welfare. But executing this on a mass scale in an urban or semi-rural environment, that sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it is. Consider the catch, neuter, vaccinate, return model, or CNVR.
Right, CNVR.
It is an intricate, highly coordinated operation. You have teams navigating dense, chaotic urban environments to safely trap street dogs that are terrified and, frankly, defensive.
Yeah, they don't want to be caught.
Not at all. Then you have to transport them in sweltering heat, maintain a sterile surgical environment in makeshift clinics, manage the cold chain logistics to keep rabies vaccines viable.
Wow. Just the vaccines alone?
Oh, yeah. And then ensure the animal is returned to its exact original territory so it doesn't get attacked by a rival pack.
It is basically a massive public health initiative disguised as an animal charity.
That is exactly what it is.
By sterilizing, they are capping the birth rate and ending the exponential growth of suffering.
Yeah.
And by vaccinating, they are building herd immunity against rabies, which, fundamentally changes how the local human population views the dogs.
Because suddenly the street dog isn't a deadly threat.
Right. It is just a neighbor. Now, while Toy Dog and Red Paws do facilitate adoptions and, provide specific medical care, their main weapon is that large-scale intervention. But then you look at a group like Krishna Ashram in the Delhi NCR region.
Oh, they're playing a completely different game.
Completely different.
Their model is the 24/7 emergency safe haven. They basically operate as an intensive care unit for the streets.
Because when you are dealing with a megacity like Delhi, the volume of vehicular trauma, acute illness, and severe abuse is ceaseless.
Ceaseless. A sanctuary like Krishna Ashram is absorbing the absolute worst-case scenarios.
And doing that requires a relentless operational tempo.
Yeah.
You are talking about round-the-clock medical monitoring, managing quarantine zones for highly contagious diseases like parvovirus, coordinating complex orthopedic surgeries for animals that have been hit by cars. The emotional and financial burn rate for a 247 sanctuary model must be astronomical.
It is, which forces them to be incredibly efficient with their internal space. Because a dog occupying a medical kennel means that space is unavailable for the next emergency.
Wow, yeah.
Their survival depends entirely on their ability to rehabilitate the animal and successfully move it out into a foster or permanent home. The sanctuary is just a waypoint. It's not the final destination.
Okay, so you have the mass medical intervention of Soy Dog and Red Paws. You have the 247 trauma care of Krishna Ashram. And then you have Paws for Compassion in Vietnam.
Right.
Now, they run rescue missions, but their primary engine, their core thesis, is education. They're pouring their limited resources into community outreach, trying to inspire kindness and teach responsible pet ownership. And I have to be honest, I struggle with Paws for Compassion's model.
Really? In what way?
Well, think about it. If you have $100 and a dog is bleeding on the street, spending that money on a classroom presentation instead of bandages feels, it feels impossible to justify in the moment.
Sure.
When the physical, visceral need is screaming at you from the alleyway, how do you defend allocating resources towards shifting public perception?
I mean, it is the most agonizing triage decision an organization can make. But Paws for Compassion is looking at the cultural infrastructure of Vietnam. If you only buy bandages, you are committing yourself to an endless war of attrition.
Okay, that makes sense.
You will treat injured dogs until you run out of money, and the next day, there will be more injured dogs.
Because the underlying behavior of the community hasn't changed.
Exactly. You cannot rescue your way out of a cultural mindset. In regions where animals have historically been viewed strictly as utility, property, or even a food source, the concept of animal sentience.
The idea that they feel pain and fear.
Right, that a dog feels pain and fear the same way a human does, that is not universally established. So Paws for Compassion goes into schools to disrupt that generational cycle. When a child learns to view a street dog with empathy rather than apathy or, hostility, you aren't just saving one dog, you are preventing decades of future cruelty.
Wow. You stop the bleeding today, but you have to teach people not to swing the sword tomorrow.
That's a great way to put it.
That realization, just the sheer grit and intelligence required to run these different models.
Yeah.
That is the driving force behind author KJ's digital strategy, because these organizations are fighting a multi-front war.
Yeah, they really are.
They're performing 3 a.m. surgeries, trapping feral packs, teaching empathy in classrooms. They do not have the bandwidth to build an audience.
Which is exactly why the Pawrenting Company website is engineered to be their megaphone. The objective is to take the isolated, profound work happening in these alleyways and project it onto a global stage.
Right.
Translating the raw reality of rescue into a narrative that actually compels people to act.
And we spent a lot of time mapping out how to actually construct that narrative. Because you can't just throw up a donation link and expect people to care.
No, that never works.
We realized we need a content funnel that walks the reader through the entire ecosystem of rescue. So the strategy for the blog essays moves systematically. First, we anchor the reader with the overarching reality, what we internally refer to as the backbone of animal welfare.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. We lay out the argument that grassroots groups, not massive corporations, are the true engine of global change.
And once that baseline is established, the content shifts to the operational mechanics. You have to demystify the process. Readers need to understand the science of population management. So we break down the CNVR methods used by Soy Dog and Red Paws, moving the conversation away from pure emotion and grounding it in public health and scientific efficacy.
You show the reader that their support is funding a highly tactical, proven solution.
Right.
But science alone doesn't open wallets. So once they understand the mechanics, we hit them with the emotional reality. We bring them inside the walls of places like Krishna Ashram.
Oh, those narratives are powerful.
We draft narratives about that 247 compassion, the exhaustion of the night shift, the sound of a sanctuary at dawn, the agonizing decisions made over a surgical table. We basically put the reader directly in the room.
And you balance that immediate trauma with the long-term vision. Highlighting Paws for Compassion's educational initiatives shows the reader that there is a horizon beyond the suffering.
Yeah, it's not hopeless.
Right. It proves that the NGO isn't just reacting to the crisis, they're actively dismantling it.
And all of this storytelling, this entire funnel, culminates in the financial reality of the developing world. The essay theme, I think, is going to be the most impactful, is stretching the dollar.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's this pervasive psychological barrier for potential donors. We think, well, I don't have $1,000 to give, so my $5 won't make a dent. We feel paralyzed by the scale of the problem.
It is such a common misconception, and it's born from interacting with large domestic charities where a $5 donation might literally just cover the postage for the thank you letter they send you.
Exactly. But when you route that same $5 to a grassroots NGO in Delhi or Phuket, you are engaging in a powerful form of currency arbitrage. Because of the local purchasing power and the absolute absence of overhead, that tiny donation mutates into something massive. It physically buys the rabies vaccine.
Yeah.
It buys the sterile sutures for a space surgery. It feeds a recovering dog for a week. You don't need a grand gesture to make a difference.
It democratizes philanthropy. It proves to the passive reader that they possess the immediate capacity to alter a life, regardless of their income bracket.
And beyond the financial support, the entire content strategy of the Pawrenting Company inevitably points the reader toward the physical mechanics of the rescue ecosystem. We are building out comprehensive guides on the second chance pipeline.
Which is the operational reality behind the slogan, Adopt, Don't Shop.
Right. We all know the slogan. It has been printed on 1 million tote bags.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But the actual physics of adoption are rarely explained. Choosing to adopt an animal is not merely a personal lifestyle choice. It is a vital, load-bearing pillar of the grassroots rescue infrastructure.
So let's break down the mechanics of that pipeline. When a family decides they want a dog, they have a choice on where to route their capital. If they purchase from a commercial breeder, they are injecting funds into a system designed to artificially manufacture more animals for profit.
Completely ignoring the surplus of animals already suffering.
Exactly. It is an economic endorsement of a system that treats sentient beings as inventory. Adopting, conversely, is a direct financial and spatial intervention in the rescue ecosystem.
Spatial intervention, yeah, that's the key.
Right. Because groups like Krishna Ashram or Red Paws Rescue operate within strict physical limits. A sanctuary has a finite square footage.
It functions like a conveyor belt. The NGO pulls the injured dog off the street, rehabilitates it, and places it in a kennel. But if that dog never leaves the kennel, the conveyor belt jams.
It just stops.
The sanctuary reaches capacity, and when the sanctuary is full, the rescue operation on the street violently halts. If there are no open beds, the NGO physically cannot pick up the next animal that gets hit by a car.
That's the reality. So by adopting a dog, you are actively clearing the bottleneck. You are not just giving a home to the animal in front of you.
You are creating a spatial vacuum in the sanctuary that allows the NGO to go back out into the city and pull another animal from the brink.
Exactly. You are saving the dog you adopt, and you are financing the rescue of the dog that takes its place.
It is a 2-for-1 rescue.
It really is.
And the ripple effects of that single adoption alter the surrounding culture. When you walk a rescued street dog through your neighborhood, you are functioning as a walking billboard for empathy. You normalize the idea that these animals are not pests or damaged goods, but deeply loyal companions. You are contributing to a global network of care.
Proving that the localized actions of an individual can dictate the global standard for welfare, which honestly brings us back to the core philosophy of Lila Publications.
It's all for.
Right. The interconnectedness isn't just an abstract theory, it is an observable operational system.
Yeah.
The volunteer in Delhi pulling the dog from the street, the educator in Vietnam reshaping a child's perspective, the reader in London donating $10, and the family adopting a dog from a local shelter, they are all critical nodes in the exact same machine.
And none of it functions without the others. So let's tie this all together. We have journeyed from the foundational texts to the digital strategy of the Pawrenting Company. We have seen how the Soy Dog Foundation, Red Paws Rescue, Krishna Ashram, and Paws for Compassion operate not in boardrooms, but in the brutal reality of the streets.
Yeah, they are out there executing mass medical logistics, managing round-the-clock trauma care, and dismantling generational apathy.
They are proving every single day that the most complex, sprawling crises are solved by those who possess an intimate understanding of the local friction.
Absolutely.
And the pipeline that sustains them requires your participation. Even if your current living situation means you cannot physically adopt a dog today, you are not exempt from the network.
No, you can foster to clear a bed temporarily.
Right. You can leverage that currency arbitrage by donating small, highly targeted amounts to grassroots organizations. You can simply share the essays from the Pawrenting Company and lend your voice to the megaphone. Every single point of engagement accelerates the conveyor belt.
You know, the overarching lesson here extends far beyond animal welfare.
Oh, for sure.
We have spent this time dissecting how hyperlocal, boots-on-the-ground action is the only mathematically and culturally viable way to solve a massive global crisis. It forces you to look at the architecture of problem solving.
Yeah.
If localized knowledge and guerrilla logistics are the true engines of change, what other monumental global issues are we currently failing to solve because we are stubbornly looking at them from the top down?
Wow. Throwing money at massive bureaucracies instead of trusting the people who are already standing in the trenches.
Exactly. It completely reframes how you look at charity.
Next time you're walking through your city and you glance down a quiet alleyway, remember who is actually doing the work in the shadows. The solutions are already out there. They just need us to pay attention. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.